Hello, hello, and welcome to the April virtual mini retreat for a Soulful Sorrow. My name is Lolo. I am the founder of a Soulful Sorrow, and it is such an honor to have you all here today to really dive into the complexities of loss that I feel like are so often just glazed over or sometimes missed completely. So today is a really, really tender topic, one that is so central to my story. And we're going to really talk and dive into this dissonance and disconnection and almost distrust that can sometimes take hold in our physical bodies, right? Loss is not just a emotional loss, though we all unfortunately know that it is deeply emotional, right? There is so much more that requires so much more reverence and like a bigger conversation, right, around loss that needs to happen. And so we at A Soulful Star are so passionate about talking about these parts and complexities of loss that oftentimes people just don't even talk to us about or don't mention. So I'm going to start to share my screen, and I have a little presentation because I'll be honest, it helps me to stay on track. I don't know if there's anybody else, but I'm like, I could just talk for hours, and I need a little nudge to be like, okay, Lauren, stay on topic. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, I'm sure probably you guys found us on Instagram. That's kind of our main way that we connect and to chat with the lost community. But it is what we do is so much deeper than that. We are not just like a pretty Instagram account, right? Like we are really here to truly champion and come alongside lost moms of any gestation, of any type of loss, to really facilitate how do we actually move through this grief with meaning and with purpose at the end of the day. And I'll kind of share with you guys my background and my lost story. But yeah, if we're just meeting, I'm really glad to meet you and to have you here. I have some new faces. I have some faces that we've chatted already, and I've heard a little bit of your story, but I'm just so honored that you're here sharing this time with us. Um, so my background, I have kind of a weird story when it comes to loss, and I mean that like in like the kindest way I can, but my loss story is a little kind of funky. When I was really young, I was actually diagnosed with a very rare uterine abnormality. I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of Müllerian abnormalities, but you can have like a bicornate uterus or totally like separate two cavities in your uterus. So when they found this out because they knew I had one kidney as a kid. So I actually was 12 years old when a doctor had the audacity to tell me that, I'm sorry, you will not be able to carry children. And that was a lot, right, to hold and navigate as basically a kid. And so when I fast forward, when I met my husband, I was just very honest. I'm like, I don't know what this journey looks like for us. I don't know what this is going to be. And so we decided to go to specialist after specialist. And this was almost 10 years of poking, prodding, misdiagnosis, false hope, hope completely smashed. I mean, if you've been in the fertility game of any capacity, like you know that roller coaster. And it was so hard. And so, long story short, I ended up going through a bunch of procedures to actually open up my uterus because I just had a really deep septum that went down almost to the cervix. And so, our doctor gave us the green light, like, go ahead, you guys are good to try to conceive. And we did. And we were able to get pregnant, and so grateful for that. But unfortunately, our first pregnancy ended with first trimester loss. And that was really disorienting for me. I felt completely pushed aside by the medical community, which I'm a nurse, I'm a part of that community, but I felt I'll just give you a brief little glimpse of how mismanaged I was. I had the secretary over the phone telling me, because she was looking at my numbers, that, oh yeah, it's looking like you're miscarrying. So, why don't you come in later for the blood work? And I'm like, you just gave me earth-shattering news. Like, I ran this race. I've gone through so many things to get pregnant, and now you're just like nonchalantly like, oh, it's fine, honey. This happens to everyone. I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. And I just felt this incongruence with the depth of grief that I felt and this like just like dissonance of like the world around me, the people around me didn't recognize this grief. This is very disenfranchised grief and it's very disorienting. So I kind of did what a lot of us do, right? I'm like, all right, I guess this is normal, I guess. And I guess I just have to push through this. And so I did. I tried to put my best foot forward. I tried to be that strong one. I tried to be silent, right? I tried to hold it in and stuff it down, and it did not work. Shocker. It was kind of just like kicking the can down the road, honestly, to healing. And my story is kind of interwoven in what we'll talk about today. But then I went on to have a second loss. And I don't know what it was about having those back-to-back losses, but I will be honest, you guys, like my mental health really took a dive. It was like almost everything I was running from in the first loss just kind of caught up with me. And I started to develop flashbacks and panic attacks and depression. And it was really, really hard. So I probably, like a lot of you guys, went to Instagram and socials and really tried to find a community that I felt like understood. And I did. I found a couple communities. I found a couple really beautiful quotes or accounts that I could open up on my phone and make me feel less alone. But at the end of the day, I got to a point in my healing that I just needed and craved more. I almost wanted someone to like take my hand and say, here is the way, step by step, that you can actually begin to heal these things in your heart, mind, and soul. Um, and body. And I just felt like nobody was talking about that. So I went on my own healing journey and EMDR, if anyone has found that to be helpful. And I found a perinatal therapist that completely changed the game for me. Validation came through, and I just started to just find all these beautiful modalities. I went and got trauma informed Holy Yoga certified, which that was a game changer to like begin to get back in my body gently again. And I was finding all these wonderful grief resources, but none of them were actually tailored to like pregnancy loss. And that was really difficult because I don't know if you guys have experienced this where you think something's going to be helpful and then it's actually more triggering. Or like you join this group and you think like, okay, cool, these women feel cool and like this is going to be a safe place for me. And then it's like triggers. You're just like crap. And it makes you feel more and more isolated. So I created a Soulful Sorrow for what I feel like I needed. I was constantly let down, I feel like, by supports. Um, and I just needed a safe place. And I also needed a pathway to heal step by step. So that is kind of the backstory of how a Soulful Sorrow came to be. So our losses were back in 2017. And God just kept tugging on my heart, create the thing, create the thing. And so here we are. We launched in 2023 and just getting started. And so we really are passionate about, neuroscience backed modalities to really help access grief within us, but really to move through it, right? Because it oftentimes feels so unjust, and it is unjust, that the losses that we experience. But there can be this this crux of healing where you begin to open yourself up to, how do I actually integrate this grief and this loss into my life so that I can actually move forward with meaning through this. It's not something that I awkwardly don't know how to hold, and so I just toss it to the side. No, here at A Soulful Sorrow, we teach and empower you to actually begin to look at this story that you've had to live and actually integrate it and give it a home in your life so that you can honor yourself and your baby at every step. So that is my heart. That is who we are. And I just invite you today to just come as you are. For a lot of us, there could be very, very deep feelings that surface. Maybe like you're already starting to cry because you're just like, oh my God, I found my people. Or like, oh my gosh, sometimes you just want to collapse and just, it's okay. You're safe wherever you're at in your journey, whether it's been a week, a month, years down the road, you're welcome here. And I just have to say, like, you guys are so incredibly courageous. Like, hello, you guys showed up on a Zoom call with like one of the most tender, vulnerable sorrows as humans that we can hold. I'm sorry, but you guys are really badass. So thank you for being here. And I just hope that today We practice the practice of having curiosity versus judgment towards ourselves. Because the world likes to judge, the world likes to tell us what's this or what's that, or how our grief should feel or look like. But what if we could actually just step back, even just for this hour, and release all those shoulds, release all of the judgments, and actually just go inward with curiosity and compassion? And I really, truly believe that if we're able to do that, then so many other beautiful things unfold from there. So if you guys have a candle, you can go ahead and light it with me. And I light this in honor of my babies, in honor of all the babies here. And so we will go ahead and do that now. This is here right next to me. We always light that every time we do any of our work here at A Soulful Sorrow. And I'm just going to read an opening blessing and a little moment of silence from one of my favorite books. If you guys don't have this book yet, I absolutely love it. It's called To Tend and to Hold by Eileen Rosette. And if you guys see, I know if you guys were here before we started hitting record, Sophia and I were talking about lost literacy happening, and she's actually coming to Bend. She's coming to speak at the event. And yes, there will be virtual tickets, by the way. So if you aren't close to Oregon, but still want to be there, you can. Okay, so this is just a moment of silence here. Before we begin, I invite you to pause for a moment to honor yourself and your experience of womb loss, for they are deserving of such a moment. If it feels resonant, you can place one or both hands over your heart and either soften your gaze or close your eyes. Allow this silence to last as long as you need it to. Maybe just for a few breaths here. Go ahead and start to deepen your inhale, lengthening your exhales. As you take this moment to be in silence, consider all of those here next to you who are holding this sorrow alongside you. You are not alone in your pain. When you're ready, you can allow your breath to return you to the present, slowly opening your eyes if they are closed. And it is with the spirit of reverence that we begin. So every mini retreat, we kind of talk about different topics that are just glazed over, really not spoken about. So today we're going to talk about a complexity really focused around the actual physicality of loss. But before we dive into that, I just have to say, like, truly, it's not you. If you have also felt that this grief has been minimized, rushed, pushed aside, you are honestly not alone. If any part of what I shared, even just a glimmer, was like, yeah, me too. I get that. Because the world, society, school, culture, all of it has yet to actually give us contextual understanding, language, or even reverence for the experience that we've endured. So in a world that has missed the mark, I hope that you know that this space, we honor you and we honor each other. You're valid, your story matters, your loss matters, and your self-care matters deeply. So gosh, disconnection after loss. We could probably talk about this all day long. Like it's a thing that looks different for all of us, right? Like our loss experience is different in circumstance, but even if we were to all endure the same exact type of loss, the same exact type of circumstances, it would affect us differently, right? That's just the nature of grief. The way that I move through it is different than how you move through it. And so in the wake of any type of loss, though, that we've endured, it is perfectly normal for us to feel disconnected from ourselves, to feel disconnected from our bodies, to just honestly just not feel like yourself. I don't know if you guys have felt that of just like, I miss the person I was before loss. Like that's okay to acknowledge that. It is such a physical, visceral experience, right? I don't know if you guys saw the post I shared yesterday, but it is truly, we birth death. And people don't speak about it in that capacity. And if that sounds intense, it's because it is. We don't shy away from that here. It's intense because it is. If you think about the energetics, right? We're like co-creating, right? We're in this flow and we're finally pregnant and we're having our Hallmark movie moment. And in an instant, sometimes we're aware of it and sometimes we're not. Sometimes it catches us off guard that we've actually crossed over from life into death within our own body. And that's a lot energetically to navigate, and that's a lot energetically to hold. So I hope that that just brings another wave of compassion towards yourself. It's also super, super like normal to also get caught up in the tasks of like fertility and appointments and the what ifs and the shoulds and if I didn't do that or if I would have just called the doctor sooner or if we can get so caught up in those storms of shoulds. So it makes sense and you make sense. Say that again, like it makes sense. You feel the way you feel and you make sense. So here's where the nurse part of me comes in, and take it or leave it. Maybe this excites you, or maybe you're like, huh? But let's just take a step back and talk about how actually trauma, how we actually experience it. So when we have a perceived threat, whether it's real or not, but I would say, I'd go on a limb and say that pregnancy loss is a legitimate threat that we endured. It is a legitimate trauma in whatever capacity we endured it in. So our nervous system, right, sees that something bad is happening. And we automatically kick into our primal brain. So we're no longer actually functioning in the high logistical brain anymore. We actually come back down to kind of like the caveman brain, so to speak, right? Or we are just like fight or flight. I've got to get through this. We kick into overdrive and we go into fight or flight or fawn. So that is the sympathetic nervous system that kicks up and says like, we feel spin up. We might feel dazed, dizzy. We might feel completely out of body, like we're watching a movie and like, this isn't my real life. So all of those feelings there's a reason it makes sense, right? So the amygdala is your brain's alarm system and it literally floods your body with all these stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Now your prefrontal cortex, which like is that higher thinking brain, our logical brain, right? The brain that we can soothe ourselves, we can think through things clearly. All of that goes offline. It makes it very, very difficult for us to process what's happening. And then the hippocampus, which organizes memory, also is really struggling because that's also offline, kicked offline. So now we're actually having a really hard time organizing events. And I don't know if you guys have this experience, but like if you look back on your experience of loss, it sometimes feels like time is like a weird thing. We can't necessarily remember what happened between this day or that day or this hour and this hour. Chances are, if you've experienced that, it's because your brain was going through a traumatic experience. And what your brain's trying to do is actually trying to support you. And it's putting you in that survival mode because it feels as though you need it to survive, right? So it's actually trying to do a good thing for us, which is good and fine. But here's the problem is when we stay stuck in trauma, when we stay stuck and the memory and our loss stays in that place and we don't come back to revisit it with tools and with compassion and with love, it is always going to keep us stuck. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I said like, I just kept running from my distrust, my anger with my body, the memories, everything of my loss. I just wanted it to go away. I just wanted to be myself again. I wanted to be strong. So I just pushed it down. And what it did, it just kept creeping up and it kept getting louder. So depending on like where you're at with your journey, where you're at timeline wise, where you're at with just how resourced you are at baseline and resourced you're getting to this point, it's all different for everyone, but just some signs of trauma, emotional, physical, and behavioral. So emotional, we can feel kind of that sense of disassociation, right? Like we're like just not here. We feel kind of like a robot. We can feel like overwhelm or panic, hyperventilating, feeling out of control. We can feel really, really distressful. We can just be fine one moment and be crying the next. We can be completely shut down, or we can be just like a rage monster. Anything and everything kind of falls under this. And then the shame and guilt. It's my fault. I did something to cause this. Those shoulds that I was talking about, like if game. Physically, we can feel like that shakiness, that dizziness, muscle tension, like pulling away from other people, pulling away from our partner, and intimacy is really tough too, right? Feeling like that frozen, unable to process. And then also just overwhelming fatigue. Oh my gosh. Anybody else feel that? Like it just takes everything out of you to experience loss, and trauma is your nervous system is on overdrive. So it makes sense that you need more rest, you need more slow. Behaviorally, right? Sometimes you just keep asking, like, what happened? You're having problems like actually processing it. And then just avoidance behaviors, which I've had plenty of those, which I shared about, which it serves us, right, for a time. So I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, I'm totally in trauma. Like it's normal and it serves a purpose to an extent, but the loving nudge, the loving curiosity that we can ask ourselves is if we're staying there too much, right? And then expressing fear. I don't know about you guys. I had major, even as a nurse, like I said, like I'm a part of the system. I actually started to have PTSD and flashbacks, and I was having anxiety attacks at work. Isn't that fun? So that's why I went through EMDR, and that's also very much in what we do here. But it's true that loss really changes who we are. And it's perfectly okay to not be okay. And it's okay to not feel like ourselves. And it is this invitation, if you view it as such, to actually lovingly re-meet ourselves with compassion and curiosity, because that is so, so courageous. In a world that likes to tell us, right, even like postpartum, and we're postpartum after baby, like, get back to yourself. Your body needs to look the same or better. Like, it's just this like next, 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 next. So honoring the places in your life that maybe you feel like, you know what, I have changed in this capacity or that capacity. And that's just a question you can sit with of where in your life have you started to notice shifts or changes? And instead of judging those, like we probably are conditioned to, can we actually look at those changes with compassion and understanding, right? Have you guys heard of the book, The Body Keeps Score? It's a very, very popular book. Basically, it talks about how we really do store trauma in our bodies. And I want to say that we also store our resilience and our humanity and the spirit in us to heal in our bodies as well. So it's not all doom and gloom, but there is a reverence that is required for us to actually start to look and say, you know what? Yes, our culture completely sucks at expressing emotion. Like completely sucks. Take a look at social media. Everybody wants their highlight reels and they're just like happy, happy, happy. And there's just this avoidance completely of conflict, of difficulty. And so our culture sucks harder at grief. Grief is actually viewed as like this thing that you have to control, you have to conquer, diminish, overcome. And I just want to be really clear, like when I talk about what we do to empower women to move through this and integrate this loss into growth and meaning, I don't mean it in this capacity of like, it's something we must control and you must conquer your grief. No, it's actually this softening and this curiosity of like, we're actually bringing it in, welcoming it in, giving it a home in our life, right? That's the magic. But when we depress our emotion or experiences, that is actually the root of disease, right? In our mind and body. So, kind of like what I was sharing in my personal story, where I was just like, I got this, I'm going to get through this. And then it just kept creeping up, right? I wasn't meeting it with curiosity. I was judging it, I was shoving it down. And that's where I got spun up and I kept having anxiety, depression, flashbacks, postpartum anxiety, PTSD, whatever it is. However you feel you've changed, and only you know you, right? Like you're like, okay, this is normal. Like my grief is within, I would say like typical bounds, but like just a plug here. Like if you're having trouble caring for yourself, getting out of bed, those are all reasons to definitely seek support, right? And there will be good days and bad days and waves and this and that. But just honoring and knowing that our experiences are deeply woven into the bodies that we have. And so, trauma, right? Whenever we endure it, it speaks to us. And I would say that emotions are trauma's communication, right? It's like the language that trauma speaks. Trauma is not going to say, hello, I'm trauma. It's going to say, hi, I'm sad. Hi, I'm really angry. So it's actually going to communicate to us in emotions. And so, emotions, really understanding like what are these things? Because nobody's really taught us. Nobody talks about this stuff. It's actually energy in motion. So it's almost in the word, right? E for energy and then motion. So truly what our emotions are here to teach us is they actually just want to be witnessed. And that's a skill that our culture, our parents perhaps really never taught us. Is that, oh my gosh, let me sit with you. You're upset that you got picked last in volleyball. I hear that. What else is coming up for you? Right? Like that curiosity, holding that with you. I don't know. My parents never did that stuff with me, right? This is all like new skills that we're building. So all emotions hold actually an energetic charge. And I don't mean this in like a woo way. I actually mean this in like, this is actually scientific. This is something that people have actually measured, and it's something that actually have a chart that shows like the actual frequencies that are correlated with emotion. Because what we can do when we actually see these as messengers, we can start to see grief, pain, anger, all these things, and actually look at them with tender witnessing. Something changes, and we actually can view them as our teachers. This is not something that is easy in early grief. So I have to mention that. If you are just like, Lolo, I love this for you, but I am so thick in my grief right now, like I can't, I'm not there. Cool. I get it. I could cry right now. I get it. So if this is like, I'm not sure I'm even really hearing this right now, I'm not really sure, that's okay. Write things down, just acknowledge it and be curious about it, right? But you will get to this point where you're like, okay, I remember this day. I remember this feeling. Now I'm ready. I'm ready to see and be curious about what these parts of my story are here to actually teach me. So when we view emotion and this experience as healing and growing, we actually give space for these emotions and experience to actually move through us. Integration is really like giving the parts of these stories that have formed us homes in our lives. I don't know if you guys know this or if you've had any personal experience, if you've shared that you've endured pregnancy loss. There are so many women who endure it. It is so common. So I don't know about you, but for me, like it's like in doing this work, I have women 70, 60, 80 coming to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, I lost a child. I know what you're talking about," but nobody ever gave them the tools to actually experience this in a way that is healing. And so what they've done their whole lives is they've bottled it up and they put it on a shelf. And it is this awkward, weird grief that nobody teaches us how to access. And so they just stuff it away. And it's really interesting because this is always going to be a part of us, right? So that is really the difference between moving forward with our story versus moving on. And so today we're going to take like those first steps of really what does that really look like to move forward with this versus moving on. And I have to debunk something. I know because I felt this deeply, and I talk to mamas all the time who feel this, that they're like, I feel like my grief or my suffering in this is almost my connection or my tie to my baby. Like if I alchemize this and if I look really deeply in this, I'm afraid that I'm going to feel more distance from my baby that I already feel distance from. And I just have to say and encourage you that actually that couldn't be farther from the truth. When we actually can come alongside our journey and we start to actually heal, our babies are with us even deeper. Like when we're integrating their legacy into our lives because we're coming from a place of gratitude and more alchemization of our pain, they're right alongside with us. So it's not, that's really the crux and the difference between moving on with them versus moving just through it and forward, right? Or excuse me, moving forward versus just moving on. So okay, the science of emotions. Remember, I was talking about like it's actually been studied. So these are the actual magnetic charges. So at the very bottom, right, we see like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear. So fun, right? We have to laugh sometimes. Hello, lost community, right? Like we are hanging out down here, which is, if you look over here, is kind of this contracted space. And then coming through is courage. Hello, you guys are already moving on up, right? And expansion, right? You feel a little bit more expanded when you feel acceptance and willingness and reason and love and joy and peace and all those things. Um, so truly, our emotions are not just in our brains, they're actually in our body. And I'm going to actually teach you and show you how to pay attention to where and how emotion is stored in your unique body, because we all hold our stories and our emotions very differently in our bodies. And so I'm going to give you guys a very simple tool that we get to do together next, where we'll actually start to access that. But first, I just want to teach you something that will hopefully put you at ease. The Harvard did a really cool study, and I don't know how they do these things, by the way. I just know that these studies exist, but they basically could study the lifespan of an emotion. So this is what happens, right, when that flashback comes back or that what if thought comes back around. And we start to think, oh my gosh, what if I did XYZ? And so what they found, sorry, I'm skipping around, is that the lifespan of emotion is actually only 60 to 90 seconds. And so it actually peaks at that 20-second mark, right when we're feeling really uncomfortable about it. So I'm going to show you guys this graph because I think this is just an awesome way to like tangibly show you what I'm talking about. So to actually bridging the gap and the gateway to actually reconnect with ourselves is being aware of these two options that we have when those things come up for us. So you feel something, okay? We're here. We feel something, we remember something, and we're griefy, we're angry, we're whatever emotion, we're getting uncomfortable, right? That 20-second mark is coming, and that emotional wave is starting to really heighten. And so here we have these two options. The pink goes on, but oftentimes, and when we don't have tools and nobody's taking our hand and showing us another way, we actually come to resistance, which is totally normal. Humanity, right? Our brains, like I said, were hardwired to protect us from the hard stuff. But what if we do, then we go through and we actually numb out. We pick up our phone, we find the quotes again, we're looking at the weather, we're planning for the weekend, whatever it is. And what happens is that feeling continues to persist. All it's wanting is to be witnessed. And so what happens on this pink path instead is we get uncomfortable, we resist it, no change there. But it's in acknowledging and being aware of the resistance that then we say, hi, resistance. If you want to name it and personify it, that's actually a very helpful tool. For me, my like alter ego of like, sometimes you just want to be sad and be like, continue in your like negative way. And actually, that's very helpful, right? Sometimes we just need a good cry. Um, I call her Sandy. I don't know why, but I just do. So I notice my resistance. If you want to personify it, you can. And then instead of saying like judging it, we just said, oh, hey, Sandy, hey, resistance. I see you. I see my humanity. I see that you're feeling XYZ. You're welcome to do your thing. You're welcome here. And just saying that and acknowledging that they're there, it actually starts to dissipate. Because what did you just do? You just rode through the hardest intensity of the emotion. And just by getting through the resistance and acknowledging with curiosity, then you come through and you say, you're welcome here. And what you'll experience, and it doesn't always happen the first few times, but I promise with repetition and support and community, it starts to get easier. Our body begins to relax, and then we start to actually witness the sensations. And then before we know it, that feeling has passed. And what I mean by that, it's those waves of grief, those triggers and things like that. It's not that our memories pass. It's not that our babies memory or the meaning of the situation or the feeling passes, but we're alchemizing and we're having a relationship with the loss, right? We're not stuffing it down. And so this is the invitation, because what we resist, we repeat. And what we don't let in, we can't let go. But what we feel, we can heal. And so going at your own pace, that is the magic. Like I wrote it here, your pace is the right pace. Like your way is the right way. So don't look left or right. Don't compare your loss gestationally to another mom's loss. Like all of us have our own unique grief signature. I wrote this quote prepping for the loss literacy event, and I'm also writing a book, and this absolutely will be in the book. But it just really encapsulates this. The contrary to our culture's conditioning, there is no containing or getting over grief. When we love our grief, it actually loves us back. Within it are gifts. We transmute our grief into growth when we tenderly tend to it as it is, which is just our pure, fierce, wild, and unbridled love. So I know that that's a lot uh, to take in. So hopefully you took some notes that will help you. You guys will get the recording of this to also go back and really like alchemize this a little bit deeper. But right now we're just going to do a super gentle little body scan. Somatics really just mean like finally making that connection between the brain and the body. Okay. Nothing scary, nothing crazy. If you've never done like body work before, if this is new for you, it's all good. Like this is something that is super gentle. And also, I have to say, like, if it's starting to get too intense for you, you have more than enough permission to kind of come out and just witness and watch. Okay. So you have full permission and control of how much you want to experience this. Maybe you're like, you know what, Lolo, I'm going to just hang back and watch. And then maybe on the replay, I'll actually engage, whatever feels best for you. Okay. So always be gentle with yourself and listen to your wisdom. So I'm going to actually invite you guys to close down your cameras. And they do that because we don't want any type of distraction, right? We don't want to feel like, is somebody looking at me? Am I doing this right? Because all of those thoughts are already going to be there because we're already human. So we don't need to complicate it any more than it's already complicated. So go ahead and start to settle into the space that you're in, however you're most comfortable. So if you're sitting up in a chair, great. If you'd like to actually sit, like lay down and rest, whether it's on a couch or a bed or whatever it is, go ahead and just get comfy. What I'm doing right now, I'm just pulling up some music and basically going to teach you guys as we start to come into this space, we're going to start to shut off our sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight, or just activation, and actually come down into rest and restore, which is our parasympathetic nervous system. And so you guys can do this practice anytime you actually feel triggered. So I call this eyeball yoga. So keeping your eyes open and your head straight, go ahead and just start to look left and right. So only your eyeballs are moving left and right, left and right. This is a little echoey of EMDR, but what's going to happen, you'll feel the sensation that you want to yawn or that you want to take a deep breath. And what that is, that's your vagal nerve kicking in, telling your body that you can relax. Okay? So that's something that you can do anytime that you feel overwhelmed. Just that left and right and wait for that big yawn. And when you feel that, go ahead and start to shut down the eyes, closing them, and then just starting to bring attention to all the surfaces that your body is meeting, the support and the surface beneath you. So if you're sitting in a chair, go ahead and feel those sit bones all the way supported down into that seat. Coming down through your feet, imagining those feet beneath you, feeling firm and completely supported beneath you. Just bringing attention to anywhere that's making contact with the surface beneath you. And we're going to start to just gently bring attention to our breath. I'd like for you to just start to deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. Do that 2 more times. Deeper inhale. Lengthen the exhale. If you want to sigh, you can. Deep inhale. Long exhale. Good. And now we're just going to actually scan through our body from the head all the way down to our toes, and almost imagining as though there's like this X-ray machine, so to speak, coming down through the crown of your head. And we're just observing, purely observing what's going on in our body. So we are detached from anything that we see, sense. We're just curious. So coming down through the head, the mind, bringing attention here, noticing what we feel. Is there racing thoughts? Is there doubts? Am I doing this right? I've never done this before. Whatever thoughts are coming in, let them go out. Don't be attached. Coming down through the neck, your throat. Sometimes that can feel constricted if you haven't been expressing yourself or your needs. So just being aware of if that space feels constricted or expanded. Coming down through the shoulders, maybe melting them down with your next exhale, letting them soften away from the ears. Taking notice if we hold tension here in our muscles. Coming down through the heart space. If it feels right for you, you can even place a hand there and almost a reverent bow towards your heart as if you're listening. Acknowledging that this space might feel light or dense. Maybe a word comes through of an emotion or a grief or a memory. Again, we're just lovingly witnessing, coming down through the belly. Again, noticing what we hold here. Coming down through the womb space, which holds so much energetically for us. If you'd like to place a supportive hand here, you can. And just offering tender compassion here. Noticing how this space feels in your body. Restricted and tight, painful, light, open. Just taking notice, coming down through the hips, around the back, glutes. This is where a lot of emotional tension is stored. And with every exhale, just begin to soften this part of your body as well. And now we're coming down through the quads, thighs, the front side, the back side, down through the knees, calves, shins, ankles, feet, bottoms of the feet, and finally your toes. And now I'd like for you to almost imagine a wave of love, a wave of compassion coming through one more time as we sweep through the body, starting at the crown of the head. Anything we noticed, we can imagine this just being covered in a blanket of love, or maybe in white, radiant light, coming down through the heart, giving validation, acknowledgement, coming down through the belly, washing over the womb space with love, compassion, awareness, down through the hips, down through the tops of the legs, back of the legs, knees, shins, calves, and finally at the feet. Love and gratitude for holding you and supporting you along this journey step by step. So now that you've kind of checked in with your whole body, I want you to go ahead and, in your mind's eye, go back to the space that felt the most talkative or maybe the most dense. Going back to that space in your mind's eye, can you begin again to deepen your inhale and soften and lengthen your exhale? And I want you to imagine that this space in your body, this emotion, this memory is softening with each exhale. If it's helpful, on your inhale, imagining that you are actually giving this part of your story, giving this part of your body almost a loving embrace on your inhale. And on your exhales, begin to release the things that are not supportive, that are not healing. So try that a few more times. With your inhales, you're showing compassion and embracing. And on your exhales, you're releasing, letting go of the things that do not serve you in this space. Once you've done that a few times, if you haven't already, go ahead and bring, if you can, your hands to that space in your body that's asking for witnessing, that wants to talk, that wants to show up today, whether it's over your mind, your heart, your throat, your womb, placing both hands here. And on the inhale, just reciting silently, I am here. And on the exhale, I am listening. I am here and I am listening. And now, when you're ready, I want you to actually physically take your hands from that space, almost as if you're grabbing that part, that emotion, that memory, and you're actually placing it out in front of you. So your hands are now palms up, as though someone's about to surprise you with a gift in your hands. So, literally making that posture with your hands. Now, I want you in your mind's eye to start to put that feeling, emotion, memory, whatever is coming forward, into your hands. And I want you to actually start to envision a bubble coming around, completely embracing this experience, completely embracing this emotion, witnessing it fully. And I want you to imagine it's starting to actually lift out of your hands and levitate up, watching it go swaying back and forth, up, up, envisioning this coming out through the ceiling of the room you're in. Releasing that. If it's helpful, you can even imagine that being received by angels, by God, by your baby, maybe by someone who you love who has passed. Just envisioning that that is held in support. Mm. And now coming back into this space, if you can, actually place your hands on the tops of your thighs. I want you just to gently start to tap left and right, your kneecaps left and right, or the tops of your thighs left and right. And as you do that, I'm just going to recite this. I release expectations of myself to heal a certain way over a certain amount of time. My grief is sacred and deserves to unfurl in its own unique expression through me. Again, as you're tapping, listen to the words. I release expectations of myself to heal a certain way over a certain amount of time. My grief is sacred and deserves to unfurl in its own unique expression through me. When you feel complete, you can start to find stillness with your hands or actually place your hands lovingly over your heart. Maybe bringing the chin down to just show honor and reverence for yourself, for your body, for this story that has lived inside of you and continues to live on through you. And when you're ready, go ahead and start to bring awareness to your fingers and toes, gently wiggling them. Starting to take some deeper inhales, opening your eyes gently, and just arriving again in the room around you. You might feel a little sleepy. That's okay. We're actually going to move into journaling. So if you'd like, go ahead and grab your journal. As you're in this relaxed state and reflective state, you can start to ask yourself these questions. You can just reflect on them or journal if you'd like. I have more journal prompts at the next page, but where in your body did you sense stored up tension or pain? And can you sense what that emotion, feeling, or belief wants from you or wants you to know? And that's okay if you don't quite have that sense yet. And is there a part of you, physically or otherwise, that is asking for compassion? So there's just some questions to sit with. And now we're going to go into about 5 minutes of just free flow journaling. Free flow journaling is a beautiful somatic experience where basically you're going to commit to putting pen to paper for 5 minutes. And if you're like, Lolo, you're crazy, I can't write for 5 minutes. I promise if you're committed, you can. And what I mean by this is you don't have to have like these wonderful deep thoughts the whole time, but you are actually present with yourself and you have pen to paper, even if you're writing doodles or blah, blah, blah between the thoughts that are dropping in, okay? So your free flow journal prompts go as this, and they're here on the screen. You can bounce around, you can go in order, or if one really speaks to you, just go with that one. So I'm going to go ahead and play some music, and you can just sit with yourself, be with yourself, and just release and let everything flow. Have about 30 seconds left. Can start to come to your closing thoughts. All right. Hopefully that was insightful and refreshing. I don't know about you, but um, sometimes we crave, and we don't even know that we crave it, but we crave to actually do things with our loss and with our grief. And our society doesn't really show us other ways to grieve other than just sitting in the corner, staying at home and crying, right? So here at A Soulful Sorrow, like we empower you with so many ways to engage with your story and engage with your grief because it is sacred. And when we do take the time to care for ourselves, our wisdom actually just flows out of us. Um, so I hope that you guys got to experience something different to do with your grief than just sit in the corner and cry by yourself, right? um, our grief can be such a different and beautiful experience. And so I'm grateful that you guys could feel that and start to experience that. So if you'd like, you can bring your cameras back on. I'm just gonna end with a closing blessing here. May you feel seen. May you feel heard. May you feel held. And in times when you do not, may you know that you are deserving of all these things. May you be grounded. May you be slow. May you be gentle. And in times when you are not, may you return to your breath and simply be. May you know your body. May you know a softer way of being. May you know your worth. And in times when that is hard, may you choose yourself over others, even if only for a moment. So thank you for taking that moment with us. Um, Before we break out and stop and shut down the recording, we will have some time as a collective to connect and share and reflect. I'm sorry, I just realized we went over time. So I just want to honor everyone's time and just mention because so many people actually have no idea really how deep and rich a soulful sorrow goes. They just think we're another Instagram account, but really, this is our vision. We exist to evolve the narrative and experience of loss from taboo, coldly clinical, to really socially inclusive and sacredly approached. And so we do this by honoring the experience with reverence through transformational experiences like this. Um, and then I don't know if you guys know this, but we actually just launched our what we call our Soulful Sisterhood Collective. It is an all-in-one resource. So this is an app you can have on your phone that actually has our step-by-step holistic healing pathway, or for lack of better terms, it's basically like a self-led course that helps go through your mind, body, and soul. And then on top of that, you also have an engaged and safe community space. So we have, just like this, we have these support groups that are just for members every single month, usually about twice a month. And then we also have a lot of different workshops and things. So it's so much in an app. And I did this very, very intentionally because sometimes, if you guys can relate, you do just want to go inward. You don't want to be in community. You kind of just want to do your own thing. So that's what it's designed for, is you can open this anywhere. It's on your phone, your desktop, whatever, and you can go through these practices. And it's really, really cool. I wish I had time today to show you everything, but basically you can do yoga flows, you can put your earbuds in and go for walks and really help get physical with your grief. There's also things in there like meditations, if you're feeling triggered or if you're getting ready to go to an appointment, whatever it is, we have so many things in here. And then we also have a resource library where you can make your self-care trigger plans if you're headed into a baby shower or a holiday, like how to take care of yourself. Like it's very, very practical. And then I also offer one-on-one mentorship. And I'm actually taking on 2 clients this spring. So if that speaks to you, if you like someone to kind of walk alongside you a little deeper, I'm available to do that. So let me know, and you can always reach out if you have any questions. Like I mentioned, we have mamas all over the world. So this is Nana from India. And she's just, I don't want to like read these because I know you guys can read them. I'll just say like a word or two, but she just really said like the combination of the tools with the community inside the app was really, really healing. This is Liz. She's another mama from the US. She's really grown so, so much. And I just did a remembrance ceremony honoring her baby on their due date, and it was so beautiful. So dang proud of her. Like, we have such incredible humans, but she really has just felt so much more inner peace and connection to herself since joining. This is Odeli. She's amazing. And she's just, yeah, by the way, she says this is a good point. Long-lasting access to the course curriculum, which is true. When you join, you are a member for life, because I know that things ebb and flow and change. And so it's just a one-time fee when you join us, and then you're always a member. You always have access. And yeah, Hayden just reiterates that like this is a safe place to arrive. Like no matter how you are, you can always authentically just show up as you are. I do have some cool things that I am launching because it's growing rapidly. So our price point has been 111, which is where it's at currently. But I'm adding so many new robust things and trainings in there that we're actually bringing a lot of new things. And so the price will go up to 195 with actually the option to have a membership box shipped to your house. And so that's going to be launched later. You guys are actually the very last people. If you go on my website, you'll see that it's already bumped to the 195. But the membership boxes are ready. So if that's something that you want to explore inside it, it's kind of like a field guide to really dive deeper into our course. And they're $60 US, and it has our guided healing journal, a vintage hanky, because I think we all deserve something beautiful to cry into, a custom made candle. You have a wildflower seed pouch, because we actually have this like beautiful walk where you're actually going outside in nature and you're planting seeds in honor of your baby. We have a lot of cute stickers and things like that. And then there's actually these affirmation cards. That was actually something that I spoke over you guys when you guys were coming out of the somatic thing. And then what's really cool is on the back of these affirmations is a breath prayer. So you get to inhale. This one says, I welcome grief, and exhale the gifts that are within it. And so there's all these different affirmations and things. And I don't know, for me, like I actually kept these. They were not this pretty. They were on gross like post-it notes, but I had these on my nightstand, and they were like a lifeline for me. So very, very cool that they're actually here in the world. And then yeah, we have our healing journal, which you guys can get inside the membership box or just on its own. And that's also really, really awesome to tack on. So before you guys will shut down, I don't know where the chat box is, but I have the chat box with the 111 price, which is not online anymore, but I want to give it to you guys. And then actually, if you use the code LOVED, I always give that code to anybody who's here, and it just gives you an extra 20% off. So that way I think it actually bumps it down to 88. So, and like I said, you're a member with us forever, which is really cool. And if you guys ever have questions about mentorship, about wanting to facilitate a remembrance ceremony or mentorship, anything like that, like we are here. And then we also offer a lot of coaching for medical systems because I'm a nurse. And so we're launching loss literacy, which Sophia, I hope you'll be there, is really to give people language and skills to approach pregnancy loss with the reverence that it deserves. So I just popped that link there in the chat. For those of you who are tuned in via recording, we love you so much, but we're going to shut down so that way we can have a sacred time of connection with those of us who are here in person. But we love you. Thank you guys for being here. Let me shut this down.